Hello, Proponomics people, and welcome to the longer form explainer version of the Sunday supplement from the 7th of January 2024, an article which I called Here We Go, because we're at the very start of the year. So I started off with the macros. First of all, the services PMI. Remember, that's the Purchasing Managers Index. So this is a survey of senior purchasing managers within big services companies, and it gives an idea of whether they are increasing their volume of business, staying roughly the same, or contracting. A score above 50 is seen as a bullish score, especially if it's considerably above 50. And the print in December was 53.4, which was up from November's 50.9 for services, which of course is so much of the UK economy. Very positive sign. And the composite PMI, which puts together the services and the manufacturing, was therefore also above 50. It was 52.1, up from 50.7 in November. And that's because manufacturing had actually retreated a bit, but services had more than carried that weight forward. I also talked this week about the money supply, which I don't talk about very often on Proponomics because it causes quite a lot of consternation between the two major schools of economics. Is it solely to blame for inflation, or does it have very little to do with inflation? That seems to be the viewpoint on either side of the fence. And actually, I take a little from column A and a little from column B. It definitely has an impact, but it doesn't necessarily do the legwork on its own. Nevertheless, it's probably right at the moment to see it declining because it's so far above that long-term trend line, and we've seen so much inflation over the past few years, and those two things aren't a coincidence. Then I talk about the Halifax House Price Index, printing a 1.1% rise for December and a 1.7% rise for 2023, compared to their forecast at the start of 2023, or at the end of December 22, and that was for an 8% drop. So they were a long way out, realistically, weren't they? And they forecast another 4% drop, which is pretty bearish compared to a lot of the other forecasts in the market. And once again, I can't really have it. My own forecast is a 3 to 5% rise, as I think wage rises kick in, and I think inflation continues to still make houses cheaper in real terms, although everyone at this point thinks that inflation is licked. I don't really agree. So let's see what happens. They're pretty bearish. And then in the meat of today's supplement, I want to get into something that's been touched upon, but really in the wrong way, not by the original article, but by the way that this has been picked up in the rest of the property media. So there are 1.279, that's the ONS figures, million net migrants into the UK over the past couple of years. Richard Donnell, the Executive Director of Research at Zoopla, suggests that around 90% of those would go straight into the rental market. And I don't see a particular reason to be able to disagree with him. I'm not sure if that's an educated guess, but it looks like a pretty good one to me. And from what I know of migrants that we've housed over the years, that sounds very accurate. So there's a massive pressure from lack of supply already, and you put 1.279 million more people in there. What's going to happen? How can the rental market absorb that? My argument is there's no real net new rental units in the UK. Every landlord survey you read, whether it's intentions or whether it's actions, is showing a slowing or shrinking private rental sector. My next thought was then maybe it's down to HMO. Maybe it's just there's loads of HMOs being created, and that's what's able to absorb. A lot of migrants are coming over as a single person, and therefore the average number of households, apparently in the rental sector, average number of people in a household is only 1.25, which sounds a little bit low to me, but I'm taking that from the Bank of England buy-to-let report that I dissected last week. And so it would make sense that a lot of those people could live in an HMO. But the best numbers we've got, which are from Octane Capital, that have been quoted quite widely, showed the PRS shedding around 30,000 HMOs in the past couple of years. Although that figure is a little bit old now, and that might well be to do with things like utility bill pressures that were there. I would have expected there to be more HMOs today rather than fewer, but unfortunately we're just speculating. But it doesn't seem like we can claim that HMO has picked up all the slack. So then there's the asylum backlog that's supposedly being cleared, around about 70,000 net cases we're led to believe, which is about 50-odd thousand approvals. This is a crazy scenario that I found out about this week, where once you're approved for asylum, you're given 7 days to find a tenancy, and then effectively the Home Office are washing their hands off you. Seems absolutely laughable to me, because I don't know if anybody watching this could find a tenancy within 7 days, but if it wasn't one of my own units that I was involved in, I think I'd struggle to find a new tenancy within 7 days. So it's just laughable. I assume those people then become the problem of the local authority and then have to go into temporary accommodation apart from anything else, and are possibly being transferred from one hotel to another or from one hotel to a B&B or something similar. Absolutely ridiculous. I reckon there's still a shortage roughly of about 640,000 rental units that's been created over the past couple of years. And the only bullet I've got left in the chamber to explain this is overcrowding. Obviously, we saw a terrible example of overcrowding with the Grenfell disaster in 2017, but I just don't understand where these people are going and how they're being swallowed up. And I figure it must be overcrowding. The last overcrowding figures we've got, the English Housing Survey, suggested about 650,000 bits of overcrowding in the rental sectors. These numbers alone would double that at least, which seems ridiculous. But of course, these people are going somewhere. And then the takeaways, and this bit's sponsored by Bard AI, so thanks Bard once again for summarising the video. The economy is expanding, but there are some headwinds. Yep, I'd agree with that part. The housing market is under pressure from a lack of supply. There's no news in that part. And the rental market is facing a similar shortage of supply. I'm not sure I said that, Bard, really. I actually think it's facing a much bigger shortage of supply than the sale market at the moment. There's definitely some challenges to be addressed, but overall the UK economy seems to be in a better position than anybody thinks. And this will all come down to, will the interest rate going up actually cause the problems that everybody thought it would, or have more savers made more money, which was quite unexpected, and there'd been a bit of a windfall from that side of things, versus the borrowers, who lots of whom have still got fixed rate cheap debt. But of course that changes day by day, and the economy will have to face that challenge.